Hey guys, Matthew, and welcome to my first episode of this Bossing to Headhunter, which is my most recent challenge where I'm basically, well, bossing until I get a Headhunter. So today in this first episode, I'll basically be talking about how we went about making the initial currency to get the character going and what we've done so far, and then plans going forward. It's going to be a fairly short update because there really hasn't been too much going on so far. It's mostly going to be in the coming days that things are going to get a lot more interesting. So if we look at excellence real quick, we are sitting at, what is that, roughly somewhere around 30 exalts or so. Now I actually crafted myself some gear. It's really just the ring and the helmet. It doesn't consider any of that. It also doesn't consider some other things, like for example Watcher's Eyes are considered at like 50C no matter what is actually on them, as you can see, right? So it's not perfect. If I had to actually guesstimate how much money I've made so far in this challenge, I've probably made about 40 exalts. Now, this was not made in a single day. Technically, we've already done this for a couple days, but it was like so all over the place that I didn't really make any video about it or whatever. Didn't make any updates. But let's get right into it. So what I did initially is I basically took my character Path of Sitting in Queue, which is my initial league starter, which was also it was minor, but then I respec'd into Stormbrand, so I basically already had a assassin leveled on my main account. Then what I did, I basically took all my stuff, right, and I put it in other tabs that I'm not going to touch at all, and I only kept a handful of premium tabs to be able to sell stuff, and then my card tab, because there are some divination cards that come from bossing, my map tab, my fragment tab, obviously for bossing, and my currency tab. And I took about 40 chaos. I made I believe a Bladefall Blade Blast character. Just something that was able to kill monsters in Quarry. And just like all the other challenges, I started off with a bit of Quarry farming. Now, I got pretty lucky in this challenge. I actually dropped an Exalt in Quarry. Not from an actual monster, but from the League mechanic. So that actually kickstarted this challenge a lot. Because instead of having to farm Quarry for like, 40, 50 chaos, I was able to sell the Exalt for 100... I think it was 100 chaos at that time, or 110, and then basically I bought silver coin. So silver coins are about 1 to 10 in big bulk, right? You can get hundreds and hundreds of those. And if you look at the price of prophecies right now, we are going to be interested in the chains. Now, why the chains is very simple, because they are used for challenges right now, so there's a lot of demand for them. So as you can see, if you look at the prophecy chains, the last one, it goes for about 60C, 60C, 40, and then some cheaper ones at like 35 and 25, right? So if we do the math on this, the amount of silver coins required to get a full set of all chains from 1 to 5 and completed is about somewhere around 250 silver coins. So for 250 silver coins, you're going to, which is going to cost you 25C, you're going to get 65C back, and then 60C back, and then on top of that another 40 for Kintsugi, and then let's see, another 35 and another 25 for a total of another 60, right? So another 60 there, and then the rest, of course, there's going to be some other ones. You can get some, you get lucky and get a Fated Connections or something like that. It's probably not going to happen, but it's possible. But you can also get things like Twice Enchanted along the way and whatnot. So anyways, just off of those, though, which are guaranteed pretty much within 250 silver coins, you're going to get 225C back on your investment of 250 silver coins, which is 25C. So your pure profit here is about 200 chaos. So I basically did exactly that, and I went through over 1,000 silver coins or so, right? So enough to get me, if I remember correctly, it was around 600 or 800 chaos or something like that. And then I built my actual character. Now, the actual character is pretty cheap. It's really budget. The only thing is the cluster jewels. The cluster jewels are expensive, unfortunately. And when I say expensive, I mean like 50C each or something. They're not crazy expensive, but in a scenario where you're starting with absolutely nothing, 50C is kind of a lot of currency. So anyways, I was able to get the character off. I'll have the POB linked in the description. This character is a pure boss killer. Don't go making this character thinking you're going to have a good time mapping and you're going to be able to get some levels and all that. No. This character sucks. for anything else than one-shotting bosses. But when it comes to one-shotting bosses, it's pretty OP, because that's exactly what it does. It can do the feared on ridiculously small budget, but literally anything that touches you will kill you. You don't have any sort of defensive layers. Your only defensive layer is a lot of damage. Anyways, my character had nowhere near this level of damage. This is a, I guess you could say, much better POV. I did not have a helmet enchant on my character. I did not have level gems. So, for example, my gems were actually level like 15. The only thing is I bought a level 21 Stormwind with no quality for like, I think it was 40 chaos or something. And then I self-leveled my gems, right? So they were very low level and no quality. You know, so my damage was probably about half of this, or maybe even less than half, and I was still able to do the feared. Not only was I able to do the feared, I was able to do the feared without the void batteries. I was able to do the feared with storm prisons. Now, I wouldn't recommend that. It's not like it's going to be easy. That's going to require you to like dodge and weave for, you know, a couple quite a bit of time, because your damage is going to be significantly less with void prisons. Now, there's no reason to, storm prisons. There's no reason to use those anymore, because void batteries at this point in the league are incredibly cheap. But because I was using this as sort of a, I guess you could say, practice for my next league start, where I want to be doing the feared on the first day of a league, that's kind of where, you know, void batteries are extremely expensive then. Anyways, so once I had the character going, what I started to do was I started to farm Shaper sets. But what I did is I actually farmed I don't have any of the maps left anymore, but I was farming the Guardian maps, the Shaper Guardian maps. The Guardian maps are about 10C each, and the Shaper pieces are about 10C each as well. So just the fragment alone pays for the entirety of the map. So it's free, right? It's literally free. I'm running them white because my goal is just to go to the boss as fast as possible, because I'm going for, of course, Guardian's Aid, which is giving me double Guardians, which I think they have a 50% chance to drop their fragment, which means every other map, instead of getting one fragment, I'm getting 2 fragments. On top of that, I'm pairing this up with the invitations. So I'm doing the Guardian invitation, which is about, I want to say, 25C, and I'm doing it with 70 quantity. With 70 quantity, it drops half of a Maven's Writ, which is 5 splinters. So that alone pays for the entirety of basically all my maps and the invitation itself. Of course, I'm not self-sustaining these invitations. I have to buy them, but I'm dropping some. I would say probably about 2/3 I'm actually dropping. So every 3 invitation, I need to go out and actually buy one, because I'm not going to drop one. So it's actually pretty decent money, because everything I'm doing is essentially profit. It's not a lot of profit, but it's profit, and it's every step of the way is just more and more and more profit. So that's what I did, and I've probably done a couple hundred maps already of Guardian maps, I want to say. And this allowed me to increase my character's budgets, you know, craft up some better rings, craft up a double influence helmet, you know, afford some better gear all around, and, you know, the currency that we have left. So that's pretty much all I've done so far. I've done a couple feared, or actually no, I've only done 1 feared as part of my challenge, actually, and it dropped me a Watcher's Eye, which is 3x, but it's sitting in my stash, so technically that was a net loss until that sells. So the feared is too risky at the level of currency that I have. Once I have 40-50x just sitting in my stash, that is when I can actually start doing the feared without, well, fear of losing currency, if you will. So that's pretty much it so far for the first update. Now, going forward, the next update is going to be in probably more than a day, probably in 2 days, because what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to fill up a full tab of every single one of the Shaper Guardians. So I believe that is 72 maps. So 72 maps is going to give me roughly 72 times 1.5 or so Shaper sets, which is going to be about 100 Shaper sets. Once I'm done all these 72 maps, or sorry, these 72 sets of maps. Now, these 72 sets of maps, every 4 maps I'm getting an invitation, and every 8 maps I'm getting a Maven that I need to go and fight. So I'm probably going to get 9 Maven's Roots. So that's going to be about 9x worth of Maven's Roots. I'm probably going to sell them just to make it faster. And then I'm going to come back and update you guys after I'm done all of the farming of the Guardian maps with how much currency we've made from that. Then after that, we are going to probably spend a day or two farming Shaper for the entirety of the day. And I'm pretty sure by the time we're done with those 100+ Shaper sets, we are going to have a Headhunter ready to be used, because Shaper sets are actually pretty free. If you look at Shaper sets right now, they are about 40C, not quite 40C. I'm getting them for much less than that because I'm self-farming them, right? I'm getting them for about 30C, and the fragments that are minimum 70C, and these are used by people who are farming the Feared. Therefore, there is like insane demand for them. They sell pretty much instantly at those prices, and they sell for even more in bulk. What that means essentially is that I'm tripling my money every single time I do a Shaper. Now the problem is there's really nothing else that Shaper can drop other than bases that have any real value, and Shaper is really, really boring. It's a really, really boring fight. But, you know, you don't really have a choice, or at least I don't really have a choice until I have a little bit more currency, so that I can start doing some more endgame stuff, such as the Feared farming. Now, before that, though, I do need to go back and check, you know, if it's actually going to be profitable, because with the current price of Maven's Roots being so incredibly cheap, it's and the Bottled Faith prices versus Cortex prices, it's looking like it's going to be very hard to actually turn a profit from that, which is why I'm sticking to something that's a lot less profit, but very, very consistent through Shaper Guardian farming. Anyways, that's going to be it for my first update on this bossing to HH. Before I go, as always, I want to say massive thank you to my supporters. The list is getting ever so much longer every time. Joseph, Adictus, Don, Brandon, Fruitfly, Reese, Panda, Sansual, Bard, Adorant, welcome back, Neroth, Jacob, Thomas, Nick, the Great Master, of course, Raymond, Alex, Anil, Tim, Grimoire, Lost with the Map, Flame Scorpion, Nathaniel, Richard, Johnny, Scott, Ronald, Willie D, Kevin, Moonkiss, Mercury, Bitizen, and of course Axel. This was a massive thank you to everybody else who was supporting me in the past or who wishes to remain anonymous. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this series, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.